In this simulation, you're the principal of SR Elementary, a K-5 elementary school. While this is your first year at this school, you have been an elementary principal for 5 years. The staff is comprised of many young teachers who work collaboratively and enjoy each other's company. It is the beginning of spring, and over the past 2 weeks, you have received complaints from staff members about one of their colleagues' unprofessional attire. You will need to decide how to respond to these concerns.
All right, Ken, I just want to make sure everybody can see the video right now. Can I get I can see, no, I can't see the video. So Ken, we were able to hear the audio there, but we'll need you to reshare your screen, please.
For emails you have received from staff members regarding the attire of Jen Brown, a tenured 3rd grade teacher. Select the Next button to review the emails before deciding the appropriate action to take.
So this brings us to our first email, right? So we're looking at our inbox. We get it. It's to you, the principal, from Mary Smith, the 3rd grade teacher. And Mary says, I am very concerned about Jen Brown's unprofessional attire. I hope that you will address this issue. Thanks, Mary. Let's look at our next email. This one is from Hank, a kindergarten teacher. Hank says, I don't know if you are aware of this, and I don't want to cause any problems, but Jen Brown seems to be wearing a lot of revealing clothing since the weather has gotten warmer. I'm not sure what I should do. Have a good day, Mr. Hank. The next one is from Darlene Barr, PE teacher. This is what Dar says. I think that you need to speak with Jen Brown about her attire. Her pants were cut so low that I could see the top of her thong underwear. In fact, at recess, she was helping the student tie his shoe and there was literally nothing left to the imagination at all. This is not the first time that she has worn clothing that exposes her underwear. Can you please address this issue? Dar. As a school leader, when I start to get 3 emails all right in a row, I know they've been talking to each other, right? That pit in your stomach. Oh, here's a 4th email. This is from Terry, the school counselor. Since the weather has gotten warmer, I feel I need to make sure you know that Miss Brown's attire has become increasingly inappropriate. I noticed at bus duty this morning, as she helped students getting off the bus, that her midriff was exposed and the top of her underwear was clearly visible. I was most concerned by the fact that some of the 5th grade students were pointing and giggling as they walked past her, and I've definitely heard staff members talking about her clothing too. I've always believed Miss Brown to be a caring teacher, but I'm concerned about the climate that her inappropriate dress might be creating for our children. Let me know if you would like me to say something to her regarding this situation. Terry Feely. Now we get to our first decision point. So just like all of our simulations, you have a little bit of context, and now we're going to make a decision. So what I need you to do, wherever you are in the world right now, take out a pen or a pencil, and I'm going to have you write down A, B, or C. And then I'll give you a couple minutes to do this. So here's A. You decide to take no immediate action and see if Miss Brown begins to dress more appropriately on her own. B, you decide to schedule a meeting focusing on the concerns about dress raised by Miss Brown's colleagues. Or C, you decide to have Terry Feely, the school counselor and one of Miss Brown's trusted female colleagues, have a conversation with Miss Brown about her attire and maintaining a safe and comfortable environment for the students. So write down A, B, or C. Give you a little bit of time here. Now I know you have that feeling like, what would I do in real life, or what does the simulation want me to do? I want you to answer what you would do in real life, because that's going to be the best here. I'm going to launch the poll. Here we go. Which option seems best for you? So I'd like you to vote. If you wrote down A, right, first option, B, second option, C, third option, and if you'll notice way at the bottom, none of these options seems good to me. That's a good valid choice as well. All right, I already have 29 votes. Oh, I wish you could see this coming in. What's happening is there's these little bar graphs going back and forth as you're all voting. I have a good portion of the votes coming in. We have all three of the options, and 16% are like, none of these options are good to me. Okay, so I'm going to end this poll. Now I'm going to share the results so that way you can kind of see the final results. We have 2%, one person would choose A. The second option has the most. The third option has the second most, just by one person. And we have 7 people that would say none of these options. So let's go back to this decision point here and relook at your choice. A, you decide to take no immediate action and see if Miss Brown dressed more appropriately. B, you set up a meeting with her. And C, you have the guidance counselor. I'm going to have you talk. I'm going to send you to a breakout room, and I'm going to have you talk about what letter you chose and why. So you don't have to spend much time introducing.
Okay, guys, let's get your coats on, get your mask on.
Right now. Talk about what letter you chose and why. Nice. Thank you for joining the room. Nice work. Rosie asked for help here. Send her to an. Nice. It looks like everybody that wanted to join a room has joined a room. All right, I just gave everybody 30 seconds to rejoin the main session. More seconds and we'll welcome a bunch of people back in. Welcome back to the main session. And thank you for kind of sharing which letter you chose and why. I jumped around to a group and it was fantastic. Somebody just shared with me that they love the breakout session. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for engaging in it. I appreciate that more than you know. So now, based on our group, this is where we start to cringe a little, because we knew that not everybody's going to disagree of which letter to choose. But since most people chose B, we are going to roll with B. So please choose B and let's see what happens.
Before you can contact Miss Brown, you receive a voicemail from the mathematics supervisor, who has just conducted a formal observation in her classroom and has some concerns to share with you.
I was in Miss Brown's class earlier today, and I'm quite concerned with her instruction. I observed a lesson on equivalent fractions, a skill that students must master for next month's state test. And Miss Brown made several computation errors during the lesson. As you know, this is not the first time I have brought concerns about Miss Brown's instructional content knowledge to your attention. I assumed that you had already addressed this issue.
Oh, how I just want to stop there for a second. Anybody who's been a leader knows that when you get one personnel concern about somebody, you tend to get more. Kind of like the old phrase, when it rains, it pours. So it's starting to, now we have concerns about her dress and about her math instruction. So I'm going to ask you to write down, take out your pen or pencil again and write down A, B, or C. How are we going to proceed from this point? Here's A. You schedule the meeting and decide to handle both the dress code and the instructional issues at the same meeting. B. You decide to schedule a post-observation conference with Ms. Brown to discuss the instructional issues raised by Dan Clymer, the math supervisor, and put off meeting with her about her attire. C. You schedule the meeting and focus on the issue of appropriate dress as planned. So write down A, B, or C, and I am going to launch the poll. All right, you got your response? All right, here we go. Please vote. Oh yeah, already a split option. Nice. Interesting. Thank you for voting. We have all the options already in this group. Somebody would do A, somebody would do B, and somebody would do C. All right, fantastic. We're going to go into the breakout room again. And it may be similar people and it may be different in this breakout room. Let me share the results with you first, because people always find this fascinating. It seemed like 61% of people said the first option, 4% of people the second option, and 28% the third option. And if you didn't like any of, I have 3 friends out there that are saying none of these options seem good to me. So let's go back to these. The first one, as a reminder, you schedule a meeting and handle both of them. Number 2, you decide to schedule a post-observation conference. Or 3, you schedule the meeting and focus on the issue of appropriate dress as planned. So I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms. Talk about what letter you chose and why. All right. Signing a few people here. going to give them 30 seconds in the breakout rooms. Welcome back to the main session to some of you. The rest of us will join us in a few seconds. Great. All right. So welcome back to the main session here. If you'd be willing to go to the chat feature, and I'd like to, any reflections that you have about the conversations in your breakout room, I would love to hear them, because this is a decision point where I usually hear something like, well, it mattered what gender I was responding to this. Like, am I responding as a male or a female, or how am I responding? And the answer is you answer it from your perspective, right? So that's the great thing about the simulations, is you can get a lot of conversation. So if you would write just a sentence or two about what you just experienced in your breakout room, I would love to share some of those with the group. You all agreed in your group. Wow, that's interesting. So I randomized the breakout rooms. Different roles handle the situation. Yes. Thank you for saying that, John. Let's see. Learned a very different perspective regarding this issue at school. Great. When breakout rooms provide a good opportunity for us to listen to each other. And when I teach educational leadership, and I love talking about simulations, because that's just like the real life. Like, if you have time to talk to a mentor or a colleague about a situation, it's so powerful to do that. Peggy says it's helpful to debrief with another person and get their perspective. Yes. Stacy, you all agreed in your group. So did Cindy. What happened? I must need to change things up a little bit. Joe, you had a very nice conversation. You both chose A. Felt it'd been great to bring in a third party and match the teacher with a mentor teacher. Nice. Great. I'm scanning through these. Ooh, Teresa didn't think any of those scenarios were appropriate. And that's okay when people don't like any of the options. When I'm in a class, I'll say, well, what would have you done as a school leader? And that's meant for the breakout rooms and also face-to-face with a smaller group. Hey, Joe. Very powerful. All right, so now back to our poll. The first option at 61%. So Ken, would you be willing to choose the first option, and let's see what happens.
What are you trying to say here? Because I'm dressed a certain way, you think I don't know math? Or is it that someone who knows math can't possibly wear nice clothing? I'm totally confused by this meeting. My students all like my class, and it has nothing to do with how I dress, because I'm a good teacher.
Whoa, Jen Brown gave us a little sass right there. So she's confused because we brought, we combined those two issues. So Ken, let's go to the next option here.
The issues around Miss Brown's attire are very sensitive and have a different set of implications than the concerns raised about her instructional effectiveness. There are a variety of potential human resource complications that may arise by trying to handle these two distinct issues in the same meeting. There certainly may be reasons to elect to address these two issues in the same meeting, and those reasons should be discussed within the context of your district's specific policies and practices. You may start the simulation over, or you may return to the first decision point by making the appropriate selection.
Whoa, so we got kicked out of the simulation, and we're only halfway through it. So Ken, would you go to the first decision there? And oh, I get some comments that somebody had a Jen Brown on their staff. Yes. Also depends on the supervisor approached it, right? Your tone and your words, that really matters. I think it depends on how the conversation started and how it's presented. Agree on the approach. That's right. That's good. So this right now, when you're working with aspiring leaders or you're working with experienced leaders, now's a good time to talk about, like, have you ever had a situation like this before? And if you have, how did it play out? So I'm actually going to send you to a breakout room right now. So even though the question's not on our screen, I'll repeat it here. I want you to say, what are your thoughts of getting kicked out of this simulation or having to go back to the first decision point? And have you had an experience like this before? So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms and let you talk about that for maybe 3 minutes. Go. Nice. Thank you for joining the breakout room. Fantastic. I love being able to see when the simulation brings you back to the beginning and people are like, no, the simulation is wrong. Even using the chat feature. Oh, it was the approach that was wrong. Such a good thing to talk about. All right, Ken, let's talk through these next decision points. We decide to have to.
We can take them into the call.
What's that?
You can take them into the meeting.
So should we force them with A right now, or should I have them revote?
No, you can stick. Actually, you can stick with. You can stick with C.
Okay.
And it's just they have to pick the one. They just have to have the conversation with her about. Continue with the conversation about dress code. Okay.
So when they come back to the meeting, we'll say we chose C last time. We're gonna go with C to get to where we left off.
Right, to actually have the conversation with her.
Yep.
So if they had chosen, I mean, you can talk about what happens if they choose to go after the math first, because then that brings in the climate issues of you not responding to your staff sent you emails.
Yep.
So what obligation do you take on as a leader at that stage?
Yep. All right, I'm going to give them 30 seconds. I'm bringing them back.
Cool. It's amazing how people are so quick to type. You know?
Isn't it amazing all over the world
in the chat
we can communicate real time, right?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Love it. All right, welcome back. Thanks for writing in the chat feature that it all matters on the approach. That is such a good conversation to have, and I'm thankful for those people for writing it in there because that brought us back to being able to talk about that approach. All right, so now how will you address the concern raised by Ms. Brown's colleagues? So we went back to the first decision point. We're going to choose C.
Before I was in Miss Brown's class earlier today, and I'm quite concerned with her instruction. I observed a lesson on equivalent fractions, a skill that students must master for next month's state test. And Miss Brown made several computation errors during the lesson. As you know, this is not the first time I have brought concerns about Miss Brown's instruction and content knowledge to your attention. I assumed that you had already addressed this issue.
There we go. All right, let's re-vote on this one here. How should you proceed from this point? A, you schedule the meeting and decide to handle both the dress code and the instructional issues at the same time. Let's not choose that one. B, you decide to schedule a post-observation conference with Ms. Brown to discuss the instructional issues raised by Dan Timer, the math supervisor, and put off meeting with her attire. Or C, you schedule a meeting and focus on the issue of appropriate dress as planned. I still think we're going to have a split vote here. So B or C. Let me throw the poll up. And you may vote. Yes, it's a split vote again. So what is more important? Is it the math instruction because instructional leadership is so important? Or is it more important with the dress code because it's a disruption to the environment? You can make a case for both of those. I'm gonna show you the results. There you go. We have most people saying C and a third of us saying the second option. Let me go into the breakout room right now. Did you choose C or B? Oop. Yes, Stacy, shouldn't a math supervisor be able to help her with the instruction? You can talk about that as well. Is Dan, is he evaluative or not in this situation? That is a very interesting thing to talk about as well. So let's go back to the rooms and let's chat about this. Talk about what letter you chose and why. Nice. I see everybody that wants to join a room has joined a room. All right, I'm giving everybody 30 seconds to come back and join us in the main session. Welcome back to the main session, everybody. All right, welcome back to the main session. The vast majority of our group chose C, so we are going to choose C and we'll see how she responds. It's Friday at 10:30 a.m. and your scheduled meeting with Ms. Brown is about to begin. Click on the link below to review the district dress code policy, and when you are ready to begin the meeting, select the next button. So we are not going to totally address that at the moment, but we want you to know the school does have a dress code policy. It probably looks very similar to yours. Push next, please.
Is everything okay? What did you want to see me about?
All right, so what does she want to see us about? We have 4 choices now. Pull your pen or your pencil. Here we go. Here's A. You look great if you're going to the club. I'm sure the guys would be all over you. It's just not appropriate for school. I got to tell you a quick story about that. When I lead this with like the aspiring leaders in my class, no matter what they chose, I go back to A, and they're like, no. But there's some good learning in that. What happens is the HR comes in and the superintendent, and you have to meet with them, and you are in hot water, which is wonderful reminder that our words matter. Here we go, B. I've asked you to meet with me to discuss some concerns I have about your attire. Since the weather has gotten warmer, your clothing is inappropriate for a school setting. I'm concerned that this not only impacts our school climate, but also compromises your professional image. C. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, and I know it's a busy time of year. You've done a very good job of working with some of our most challenging students this year. I wouldn't want your choice of clothing to negatively impact your professional image. D. I have been contacted by several of your colleagues who have expressed concerns over your attire since the weather is getting warmer. They have indicated that they can see your thong underwear and your bare midriff, even in front of. Here we go. Choose B, C, or D, not A. Please don't choose A. I'm going to relaunch the poll. There we go. Nice. We actually have B, C, and D in this room as well. I love it when it's a split vote. Those are by far my favorite. Nice. Ooh, I'm going to end this poll, but I'm not going to show you what the results are. I actually want you to talk in your group because there are some split decisions. So talk about what letter you chose and why. Go. Nice. Looks like everybody who's wanted to join a group has. Perfect. All right, I'm going to close all the rooms, give them 30 seconds to come back. Welcome back to the main session, a few of you. Did you agree so quickly on your conversations? I'm always curious about that. All right, welcome back. Great, welcome back. Now you can see that most of us chose the second option, even though over a third of us chose the third option, and there could be a good reason for that. So we're going to go with the second option, Ken. Did you choose that? And we'll see what happens.
Oh,
Oh my. What do you mean?
All right. We can work with that. All right. Do we have A, B, C, or D again? You may not recall that the district has a staff dress code. I'd like to give you another copy of it and have you read it over. Get back to me if you have any questions, and have a good day. B, there are times that your underwear is visible because of the cut of the pants you are wearing, that your midriff is exposed, and that your shirt shows cleavage. C, You look great if you're going to the club. That answer, it's like we're baiting you into getting that answer again. Don't choose C. Or D, some of your clothing is too revealing. You may not recall that the district has a staff dress code. I'd like to give you another copy of it and have you read it over now. This way, if you have any questions before we finish up here, I can answer them for you.
In a meeting.
Okay, I'm leaving.
All right.
I'm going to relaunch the poll, and you may vote. Nice. I am seeing a lot. Now we only have 2 answers out of the whole. There's a third one. I like it. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. 18% did the first option, 6% the second, and 70%. That's the highest percentage I think we've had. So go ahead and talk in your breakout groups and share what letter you chose and why. All right, looks like everybody. Okay. I like this decision point because what they're talking about in the groups right now is some of the people are like B, you know, because they're like, I need to be direct about what is wrong. I always think that's interesting. And some people will choose A because they're like, hey, I don't want to have a conversation, a sensitive conversation about this. I'm going to document that I gave it to you. You're out the door. And some people are like, no, you're going to read the whole thing in front of me before you leave. And I'm going to document that as well. All 3 choices that people would use in real life. I love it. All right, I'm going to bring him back. Back to the poll. The 4th option is what we're going to choose, Ken. Back, push pause. All right. Welcome back to the main session. We had 76% that chose D, which is the 4th option, to kind of hand her the policy and have her read it right in front of us before she leaves. So let's see how she responds. Push play, please, Ken.
Sorry for all this. I didn't mean to cause any trouble, and I definitely understand the policy now. This will not be a problem again.
You have completed this simulation module. The learning objectives for this module were establishing a culture of professionalism within the school and maintaining an effective supervisory relationship while giving feedback around sensitive issues. Now would be an opportune time to discuss the decisions you made throughout this simulation with your colleagues. There are also guiding questions for you to consider in the facilitation guide. Remember that this simulation is not intended to explore or define every potential outcome, but rather to stimulate critical conversations and thought around leadership and learning.
Glad I've been able to
Completed the simulation. Click the exit button.
All right. So good job, everybody. That brought us towards the end of the simulation, I'm going to throw up a poll right now, and just we're kind of curious. This is one simulation of 31 that are in the library today. And on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, how much more effective do you feel your district's professional development or ed leadership program content would be if simulations were included? Meaning, and this is one of 31. We have simulations on serving transgender students well, difficult conversations about race, equity, a lot about budgets, school, like negligence that goes, teacher negligence that goes to the media, school shootings. We have 2 already done about the pandemic. I mean, we have all a myriad of simulations out there, and we're just kind of wanted to capture that. So I'll kind of share the results, share what people think, kind of in the 4 and 5 range if we had to be able to include them in your programs. So right now I'm going to ask Ken Spiro to share a little bit more about simulations from his perspective as well. So go ahead, Ken.
Thank you, David. I think I saw, Steph, did you have a question? Were you raising?
Oh, no, I was just stretching. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to do another share and shift over. I seem to have lost the opportunity to share. There we go. So, when it comes to, hopefully you're seeing my screen.
Yes.
I was hoping to expand it, but there we go. So, when it comes to this idea, our operating premise is really the idea that experience is the best teacher, and simulations, in essence, approximate experience. And we know this from other high stakes industries. We know that from aviation, where we have flight simulators. We know it in healthcare, where we have health simulators, or what they call deliberate practice. And our thinking is, well, schools and education, especially K-12, is really a very high stakes industry. I mean, the stakes couldn't be higher in terms of dealing with our kids. So why not use simulation in order to do this? And in fact, I've been doing simulations actually for over 30 years. And I've worked with leaders from around the world in multiple different industries. And I have to say that my experience, what I've observed is that the role of the educator and the education leader is probably the most pathetic leadership job I've come across. And I really mean this with the greatest of respect, because nowhere have I seen a job where the stakes are so high and the decisions are inherently complicated and complex. And yet it's exacerbated by a group of stakeholders whose demands are so exclusive of each other, and that each one may be more irrational than the next. So no matter what you do as an educator or as a leader, you're going to get whacked, right? So the 2 key challenges for educators is, on the one hand, we need to be able to exercise good judgment. And on the other hand, we need to be resilient. And the thing about judgment and resilience is you cannot teach either of them. We only get better at them through experience. And as we know, the school of hard knocks rather sucks. If you'll excuse the language, I apologize. So how do we in fact have safe experience? And so when we think about the idea of simulation and what the power of this modality, since it can be done scalably, when we can do them, when you think about the leadership pipeline activities that you may be doing in your districts, or as part of your graduate programs in your schools in higher ed, or at any level that you are in a school building or in a district, right? The same simulation as you saw can be played at whatever level you're at. So the same product, if you're thinking about how do we build the pipeline, because one of the things that's clear in terms of exercising judgment is that we need to develop our skills in terms of our decision making. But how do we do that safely? Because on the one hand, deer in the headlights is never going to be an option. And on the other hand, we need to have an opportunity to share different perspectives. We're not going to get it, quote unquote, right, because the right answer according to different people may be different. We have to do the best we can, but how are we going to get that opportunity to get those shared perspectives? Because the experience that you've had may be incredibly valuable to get that insight in terms of my decision making. But how do I get you to tell me that? How do I create an environment? So when we think about these ideas of what's coming, especially now with the pandemic, key challenges that are facing schools is going to be turnover, is going to be churn at whatever level, at the leader level, at the teacher level. Onboarding and bringing new people in, that always brings everything to a halt, and we cannot leverage the work that we've been doing. So we need to do, on the one hand, the skill development, have the opportunity to build a team. We're not alone, and de-isolate where we can, right? The role of the educator is incredibly isolating, and the well-being of our educators and our leaders is at risk. And we've seen there's plenty of data out there that says physical problems come with that level of anxiety that people are experiencing. And simulation really provides us an opportunity to address all of those things in one element that can be blended as part of whatever else you're doing. Because simulation is most powerful when it's blended with other activities that are going on, whether it be instructional elements in a graduate program, whether it be as part of content in a PD in the district, whether it's part of a mentoring relationship that you have with a protege or a coaching relationship with a coachee, all of these, or a team meeting with a leader running this with it to gain perspective or build empathy within a team. All of these are different applications that can be used to improve climate in the districts, that can offset churn and enable the strategic elements to actually be able to proceed. And the one last thing is, as we've seen over the last year, certainly, there are some very difficult conversations that need to be had amongst stakeholders, right? Amongst teams themselves, with students, with parents. There are a lot of things to talk about that are deeply felt and need to be attended to, and we need to be able to communicate. And because if we can't communicate, then we can't actually proceed for everybody. We can't address the needs of every student. And this is a modality that allows for, as you saw, the opportunity to provoke meaningful conversation in an organic way, even about difficult issues like bias, right? We could have come up with, if we had chosen to make a real point of it, we could have had the discussion about gender bias in that first choice, right? Assumptions that we make, because we don't tell you who you are as a principal, whether you're a man, you're a woman, or anything else. You may have had a visceral reaction that says that, well, what I do is X, right? I'd meet with her, I wouldn't meet with her, but not because it's a thought out decision, but that's because your reactive decision. We need to have that opportunity to think, to acknowledge in there that we may have something else that's going on in our head that we have to move past. And having this opportunity to do it in an organic way can be very powerful. So with that, we really like to focus on what we call the value skills, which are decision-making, problem-solving, and collaboration. And we really need to bring out the opportunity to engage in critical systems and creative thinking amongst our teams. And whether we do this asynchronously and do it individually and have the opportunity to talk about it, or whether we do it in groups, whether we do it virtually, whether we do it in person, totally up to how you want to deploy. So with that, we'll open it up to any questions that you might have. We'd be happy to, our experience has been that seeing simulation is one thing, doing it is believing. And if you're interested in bringing this in to your program or into your district and would like to see more or have a focused group be part of it, we'd love to do that with you. And with that, I will, first of all, thank Dr. DeYoung for his excellent facilitation, as always. Thank you, David. And invite you all to, we have aligned, one last thing. We have aligned them with the PSEL standards and with NELP. So if you're interested in terms of aligning the titles, and you can see they're kind of small, but you can see on our website, schoolsims.com, the list of simulations, just to see how, the various topics that we have addressed. And we're always looking for new opportunities because there's no shortage of problems of practice that are out there. And one experience of anything is not going to be sufficient. There's always opportunities to address them again, because of the role of context and situational awareness in terms of decision making. So with that, we thank you for your participation, and on behalf of my team, we'd love to speak with you about this further, and certainly if you have any questions, happy to answer them. And if you're interested, you can just probably unmute yourself and ask if you have questions.
I see a lot of people in the chat feature saying thank you. We want to thank you for coming as well. So, and just stick around. If you have a question, go ahead, unmute and ask us. We'll stick around till all of your questions are answered.
Hi there. I was a little bit late, so I might have missed some explanation in the beginning about this, but you all have existing simulations, so an organization could tap into something you've already created, but you also work with companies or organizations to tailor simulations. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So there's a library of 31, I guess, is what we're at. Well, we have a bunch in the pipeline as well that we'll be adding. And we also work with those who want to simulate, who have, there's a topic, a scenario, an issue, or a model, right? We're working with one university right now on a leadership model they have come up with and how it's applied in the context of an equity-based or ELL scenario. So those are options and in a variety of ways in which we can engage. But yeah, that's how we do it. And we make the library available, obviously. So, you know, what the product is the library of sims. So you can integrate them as works with your program.
Okay. I'm going to go look through the library and see what I see, but thank you for this.
Thank you.
Steph,
Good
thanks for
one.
joining us.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. How do we access the recording? Is that available?
It will be coming. You'll be getting it since you're here. You will probably get it automatically. So it'll be sent out in an email once. I think we have to close it before it can actually, you know, publish the recording, and then it'll get sent out.
Great.
Right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. For those of you who are still on, do you have any other questions?
Hi, David. Hi, Ken.
Great to see you again, Michael.
Hey, not really a question, but just thank you. I'm doing this actually next week with the Principal Network, so we're going to kick this off. I mainly wanted to see how you facilitate I think we had over 50 people in here. So the back and forth with the interaction with the polls and then the breakout rooms. So David, I guess for the setup real quick, you leave maybe like 3-4 minutes for the breakout and then constantly bring them back.
You are exactly right. And the more random your breakout rooms are, I have found the better the conversation. Some people like to set them up beforehand, and you can do that in your Zoom.
Yeah.
So what I do is I'll click on breakout room, and I'll make as many breakout rooms as I have to have 3 per breakout room.
Right.
Because when I use technology, you know, sometimes one person has a snafu, and that still gets at least 2 people talking.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try it with a Padlet as well, so we can capture all of our thoughts and keep kind of the discussion moving forward. And just to see the different dynamics of the groups. It'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
Padlet would be a great way to capture their thoughts. I love it.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you.
See you later.
Thank you.
All right. I will push end on this. Is that all right?
I think so.
Okay. I'll push end. And then, Brian, as soon as I get the recording, I'll send it to you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.